I also want to point out this. Yesterday I showed you this little washer that goes on top. On this part it has a bit of like a chamfer, and on this side is the flat side. I said that this flat side would face up, but it's actually not. This concave faces up. It helps have clearance around the top of these little bumps on the balls. So just make note when you're building it, the flat spot goes down towards the ball, and then this chamfer side goes facing up. But I just wanted to clarify that since I made a mistake yesterday, and hopefully that helps people if they're building this kit. They'll know which way these go without having to worry. So it goes just like that, and it gives extra clearance for the ball. Alright, so I got everything back together. I switched over to the lower balls that came with the kit. I got rid of my upgraded lower balls that I got. I switched back over to the stock upper Heims. I got rid of my upgraded ones, and everything like that works nicely. The suspension moves up and down freely, and that's how it's supposed to be. So moving forward, if you're going to build this kit, try to have your old original stock parts and everything will go together perfectly fine. So alright, so like I previously mentioned in my other video, I'm going to stick with the upgraded Turtle Racing front shock tower. The kit does come with its own shock tower. Again, I don't know if it's going to hurt anything or if the geometry changes or anything like that, but I'm going to go with the stock one. I'll install the shocks, and if there is a problem, I'll just switch out back to the original part that came with the kit. But I'm going to go forward with the Turtle Racing. Again, it's just the 4 screws that hold it into place, and let's get it installed. Alright, and just like that, that's how the front shock tower gets installed. It's just 4 screws that hold it on to the upper shock towers. I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to install the 2 screws that hold the back half of the shock towers on. They kind of just wiggle into place, and then 2 bolts hold them in. Alright, so we're going to tackle the steering setup. The kit comes with 2 new longer links. These are upgraded links that obviously I won't be able to use because they're Heim joints and they're threaded. I was digging around in my parts and I found my old setup. I'll have to take the old parts off and reuse these plastic rod ends. So let's get to that. So it's just 2 bolts that undo it from the original setup. I obviously put lock nuts underneath. Alright, and just like that, just 2 simple bolts, and these come off. Again, we're no longer going to use them. We're going to have to go back to the original hardware. So let's get these all broken down, and let's get these new longer rod ends installed. Alright, so just like that, I got the links all taken apart, and now let's just quickly rebuild the new ones. One's going to be reverse thread, meaning the opposite way, counterclockwise, and one's going to be clockwise. Make sure you have the 2 opposite sets. One has a longer stud, and one has a shorter stud. Alright, and just like that, the links are built. They're not the right length, or they're not also the same length. When I get it all back in the car and the servo saver and the steering is all zeroed out, I'll just adjust them as it's all together. Right now I won't know the length that they need to be. So they're just thrown together loosely so they don't fall apart, but that just means I can continue building. Alright, so it's pretty simple. They're just going to get slitted through the hole, and a lock nut is going to go on the back. Just going to put a little bit of Loctite so it doesn't fall off. And then the lock nut gets threaded on. Alright, and just like that, the new links are installed. Again, it's just one bolt goes through and a nut on this specific setup. The original one just gets threaded in and has a captive nut, but it would be the same thing. Alright, to install them back on the kit, you simply take these two spacers like so, and they'll slide down onto the threaded shafts, and then they simply just get pushed up into the knuckle steering, and a lock nut gets put on top. Alright, and just like that, the whole steering setup is installed. Again, everything is just loosely put together. It has to all be readjusted once it's on the car. But that's what that looks like. Let's move on to the next step. Alright, the kit comes with two screws. You have one that's fully threaded and one that has a shoulder. The one that's fully threaded is going to go for the bottom A-arms to hold the shocks. And then if you were to use the shock tower that came with the kit, you would use the shoulder bolt and it would just thread into the shock tower just like that. And there's enough thread that if you're still using your limit straps, you would have enough room to still throw a bolt on the back. But again, I'm going to use the original shock tower that I have been using, the Total Racing one. It's pretty simple. It's just the two bolts up top and the two lower bolts. And I'm also going to install my limit straps because they use the bolts that come through on the top shock tower. So with that being said, let's get to it. Alright, so it's just that simple. The two bolts up top, the two lower bolts on the bottom, and then, like I said, the bolts that come through for the shocks. Up top, hold your limit straps, and it still looks like we can still use the limit straps. They have precisions on the arm, so I'm going to grab all the hardware for that, and let's do those next. Alright, so just looking over the kit real quick, it seems like I made a mistake. If you look here on the back of the arms, it has a L and a R. I'm assuming left hand, right hand. And then these have holes here on the back of the arms, which would need to go here on the front to run your front sway bar. The end links would need to mount here. So these bottom arms need to be swapped, and then also looking over it, since there will be no holes when this is now on the back side of the arm, I don't think we'll be able to run the limit straps since there won't be no holes. I'm going to turn the camera off here and switch the arms around. And then I'll cut the camera back on and see what I find out, if we can still use the limit straps, or with this kit you can't. So with that being said, give me a few minutes off camera. I'm going to switch some things around and see what I find. Alright, so off camera, I got everything switched around. Now these two little holes are in the front of the car, which means that now I can use the front sway bars. Again, the limit straps, I'll see if I can come up with something, but I don't think you could use the front limit straps, which is no big deal. I'd rather have the sway bar. Let's get the end links for the sway bar, and let's get them installed. Alright, so I got the hardwire out. I got my two end links. I'm going to just pop them into the arms right now, like that. Just make sure that they're both correct directions. And that's just easier to do like that when you have everything in your hand. And then this just fits underneath the front bumper and falls down. Let's get Loctite on these 2 screws and let's get it threaded in. Alright, just like that, we have the front sway bar end links installed. They fit on the 2 outside holes, and again this just will fit up there, and the stock plastic piece, when the bottom screws go through, will lock this all down. I'm just going to push these hoses for the Resi's shocks to the back. I'll get those mounted up off camera since they're just a clamp and they don't really pertain to the kit. Alright, so I got the kit turned around. Again, since I switched the arms around to run the front sway bars, there's no longer a hole back here to run the limit straps. I might just drill a hole off camera and just run the limit straps, or I might not. I don't know yet. But this is everything about the front kit. If anybody has or has built this kit before, if you could leave a comment down below. I wish I really had directions. The front was a little bit more trickier than the rear, but I got it all together. Again, if you have built this kit or have any idea, drop a comment down below. I'm curious to see if I installed them the right way or what problems I was having with the binding issue and stuff like that. But with that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.